Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. I am your host, Gage Rozier. Today's episode is sponsored by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr provides strength conditioning software to athletics programs around the country. Whether you write your own programs or want access to over 100 templates, TeamBuildr can make your program more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's effort in the weight room. Visit their website and start a 14-day free trial at teambuildr.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey guys, this week I'm really excited to bring to you Coach Chuck Hollwedel, the Director of Athletic Performance at Benedictine College. I really enjoyed this conversation. Coach is doing a really good job there at Benedictine. He was the first strength coach there, started about 2 years ago. We get a lot into how he established the culture and how he's continuing to build team camaraderie and develop leaders. And we get into a lot of his training philosophy as well. He has a lot of energy, you can tell. He has a high standard for his athletes that he demands, and I really respect that about him. So if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it. As always, please give us a like. You can check out all of our show notes and everything on iTunes as well as our website, bigtimestrength.com. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Hey, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on the Big Time Strength Podcast. Why don't you get us started by telling you a little bit about your background and what you're doing there at Benedictine College right now?
Yeah, Coach, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to have the invitation to be able to talk with you a little bit. This is great. But yeah, so at Benedictine, I was fortunate enough to be hired as the first Director of Athletic Performance here. And I've been here for almost 2 years now. I started off working in January of January 16th. Started off working with the football team primarily in their off-season training, and then was able to coach spring ball a little bit with them. And then over the summer was able to be hired as promoted, you could say, to the Director of Athletic Performance and be able to see all the teams in our varsity program. So it's been really good. We have 19 varsity sports here. We have a huge athletic enrollment. We have over 700 athletes here, and it's been quite the whirlwind getting an adjustment to it, and being able to work with that volume of athletes. So it's been quite the journey so far, getting it established and being able to create a good program here.
Yeah, and we were talking before we started recording that you are the first strength coach there at Benedictine, so you've had a chance to really establish the culture you want. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the culture you're establishing, you're trying to establish there as you get your program rolling.
Definitely. The biggest thing that I wanted to establish first when I got in here was a standard of excellence and a standard of effort. I think that those are two of the biggest things. I coach effort more than I coach technique or X's and O's or anything like that. Every time that an athlete steps foot in an athletic setting, and I hope that this applies to the rest of their life as well, but anytime that they step foot into the weight room or on the practice field, and especially during competition, or film study, whatever it is, I want them to have that culture and to have that standard that they hold themselves to of giving their full effort no matter what's going on in their life. And, that looks in a lot of different ways, as far as energy, focus, intent on what they're doing. And that's really the culture that we have been able to establish here, fortunately enough. That no matter what you're going through, because I get it. Life, will throw so many different things at you. You have a midterm or a final, a hard test, or things going on back at home, or a boyfriend girlfriend situation, whatever it may be. But no matter what, you're going to come here and we're going to demand your best effort. And I get it. Day one, you come in and you're feeling great and everything's going well. That effort level, you're 100% on day one versus what you're 100% on, day 70. Is going to be probably different no matter what. But anytime that you come into any sort of athletic setting, and I hope in the rest of your life that you're going to give your full effort, your full energy level that you have to give for that day into creating a positive environment and to being able to make yourself better and uplift the team. One thing that I'll mention all the time is don't just be an individual in the room doing the same thing as a bunch of other individuals. Be a teammate that's utilizing this time to get better with your team. And that's the culture that we have, is an effort and a team standard every time that we do anything, really.
Oh, I love that. And you mentioned midterms, and that's something that I think a lot of people are obviously going through right now. And I know
Hmm.
my athletes aren't any different. That you kind of see some zombies start to come in your weight room now. You know, they're studying for tests and they're trying to manage everything. So maybe what are some ways that you have still demanded that effort? Some creative ways that you can see that their energy levels are low and they're coming in, and you still wanted to get them ready to train and remind them that you still need to give your best effort no matter what's going on. Are there any ways that you go about doing that?
Definitely. One of the first things that I'll tell them when I see that when they're coming in, and you get the maybe flicking some sleep out of the eye or the big yawn or just a head down. We talk about body language a lot. I'm like, I don't care if you want to be here or if you don't, fake it. You're constantly communicating, whether you're telling me you're tired or whether you're telling me that you like something or whether you're telling me that you hate something. If you're verbally communicating that, that's obviously one where you're literally telling me. But if you come in here and your head is dropped and your hood's up and you're just pretty checked out, like that tells me that you don't want to be here, that you're tired, whatever it may be. So we talk about body language a lot. And then I'm like, even if you don't want to be here, fake it. And if everyone else is faking it, there's going to be a natural energy that picks up about it. Like, I don't care if you hate this, but if you just fake a smile, if you fake a high five, you start clapping a little bit, that's going to start getting in you, and you're going to probably be excited by the time that you're leaving the session. You're probably going to have a little bit more energy than when you came in. Another thing I'll talk to them about, so a lot of our teams here in the off season, we train 3 times a week. And then depending on the team, we'll go 2 to 3 times for in season. And I'll tell them, like, there's 168 hours in the week, and all I'm asking of you is 3 of those hours total. I'm asking for 3 hours of your week that you're going to be able to give me, all your energy that you can. That's all I'm asking, just 3 hours out of your 168. Now, the rest of that time, you get to choose how you're going to spend it. But I'm asking you to invest these 3 hours and give me your full energy, your full effort into this instead of just wasting these 3 hours of your week. Because if you waste one session, you wasted 1/3 of the week, right? And if you do that enough, if you start adding all that up, that's a lot of time that you've now wasted instead of invested. We talk a lot about either investing or wasting. There's no in between. You're either investing for your future or you're wasting the time that's going to end up not benefiting you in your future. So we'll talk about that at the beginning a lot of times, something about that. And then to get them fired up, I mean, if you're playing college sports, you probably love to compete. So we'll do some sort of competition, whether it's even something as simple as rock, paper, scissors. And if it's a group where we have offense and defense, I'll split them up, and we'll get an offensive winner to represent the offense and a defensive winner to represent the defense, and we'll get them going, and we'll start keeping track over the course of the semester. And every time that one team wins, they get high fives. Everyone goes around, and the loser has to do. It's just something stupid like 3 push-ups or 3 up downs, something that's not going to kill them, but just enough to make them want to win. You start getting that competitive edge, especially too when you split them up in teams. Even if it's not offense and defense, sometimes they'll just number them off 1 2 1 2 1 2, and then you have a team that you're trying to represent, and you don't want to do those up downs. And if it's sometimes where we're really tired and we're really struggling, we'll crank up the ante. Sometimes it's like 40 before the session starts. And no one wants to do that, right? And so if we when you start kind of rallying behind that and you create that positive energy, don't make it a huge deal. We circle up. And we're not talking trash. We're calling out people for, this kind of little thing, just something to get them excited to be a part of a group, excited to be a part of their team and an opportunity that they have to get better. So especially, like right now during midterms, we're on fall break right now. Today's the first day of fall break. So we just got done with midterms. And I mean, this week was, it was like pulling teeth sometimes just to try and get some of the athletes to be excited, to be motivated, to care, and whatnot. And so it's just little things, little competition things like that. A lot of athletes start getting behind, they start getting excited, and that sets a pretty good tone going into the rest of the session.
No, that's great, and something that we do that's kind of along the same lines there that I completely stole from Joe Quinlan at Northwest is we do a water chug with our football guys so we have 3 football groups, and we have an offense and defense and special teams representative at the end of our Thursday lift going into Saturday. And it's just a water chug, a 16-ounce plastic bottle water chug. And best 2 out of 3, and whoever wins the best 2 out of 3 of the lifting groups wins the week, and then we keep track of it throughout the whole season. And last year,
That's awesome.
yeah, last year it came down, offense versus defense, winner take all. Last week, and we had a water chuck belt we made, and the guys got all into it. So I agree, just something stupid that doesn't really matter, but it gets them it gets them bought in, and that team camaraderie standpoint is always fun. I'm always looking for sort of new ways to kind of get that going.
Definitely. We this past off season with our football team, we have a huge football team. We have 265 guys on our football roster right now.
Wow.
Yeah, like it is massive. So we split them up this spring. We had 4 different groups that we had come in. No, excuse me, because we didn't have with our freshman class we have 260. So this past spring we were right at like the 160, 170 mark. So we had 4 or 5 groups that we split them into. And so each group, so we had, a morning group, we had like a 6 a.m. group and like a 9 a.m. and, throughout the day. So each group became a team. And what we did a little, bunch of different competitions, but also it's just kind of based on like energy and effort level of the group that really brought it. And we did every Thursday morning, we had 6 a.m. conditioning where we had the whole team there. And we had a brick winner of the week because we talked about the very beginning of the year. We talked about how, laying a path for success is 1 brick at a time. It's I'm pretty sure Will Smith did this in an interview. I saw it one time. I loved it. Stole it. But yeah, Will Smith talked about, when you lay down a path for success, you don't lay down the whole path. You lay down 1 brick and you lay it down as perfectly as you can. So we talked about that. Like each day you have an opportunity to lay down your brick, and you want to make sure that it is laid down perfectly. And so we had a brick winner of the week. And I found a brick one time. I was walking into the weight room here, and I was walking through the parking lot, and I just found this old beat up brick. I'm like, that's perfect. So I took it, and they freaking wanted that brick. I mean, we had guys that would like just go all out for a beat up brick, and they loved it. They we put them on the Instagram, and because every guy on the football team wants to get that recognition and all that. So it was cool. I mean, it was a freaking brick, but they loved it and they competed for it. And at the beginning of the session, like who's going to get that brick, and they're John and they're going crazy for it. So yeah, I definitely think, sometimes I myself, I try to make things too complicated, and I'm like, they just love those little things just to compete after.
Well, that's great. That's a lot of good stuff there, Coach. And how about you do anything particularly to develop leaders? I mean, there's a lot of camaraderie stuff there. Are you ever singling guys out and trying to put them in leadership positions?
Yeah, definitely. So we do a few different things for that. A lot of times we'll, at the end of a session or before session, we'll have somebody say some things, I'll tell the guys ahead of time, or some of the girls teams tell them ahead of time, like, hey, you're going to lead our session tomorrow. So you're going to get them going. You're going to be the one that's going to, after, we're 2 or 3 weeks into a phase, so they know exactly kind of the layout of what we're doing. I'm saying, like, you're the one that's going to, introduce this and this and this. And, you're going to explain it to them, make sure everyone knows about it. And so we put them in a position, to be able to get their team to rally behind them right away. Like they're the ones, like, I'll, give them my whistle or whatever, and they're the ones that'll, like start the whole session. So they'll have to be put in that position of, okay, we have to make sure that everyone knows what we're doing, everyone's on the same agenda, and that everyone is moving as a team and not as an individual. Because I'll call that out immediately. The second I see someone being an individual, not a teammate, I'm on them. So they have to make sure that everyone is doing the same thing and knowing what we're supposed to be doing. Or even if it's different, sometimes we'll have like a red group and a gray group just, because they're at different training ages, but that they all know how they're supposed to move, how they're supposed to function, how the rack's supposed to be set up. Like they're the ones that are supposed to talk about that. So we'll do stuff like that. Sometimes at the beginning or end of the session, we'll call out somebody, like Jimmy, say, something that Johnny did really well, and tell me something that Johnny needs to improve upon. Not saying bad, but just something he needs to improve upon. So now they're starting to be able to look at each other with a positive eye and then a critical eye as well. It's like, okay, you know what, Johnny, I really respect the way that, you were, every time, we were doing a glute bridge or whatever, every time someone's on the ground, you gave them a hand back up. I really respect that. But also, at tier 2, you didn't really give your full effort into that or your full energy level into that. So I think you could pick that up a little bit. So we're teaching them now to be able to have a positive and critical eye towards their teammates, but not be afraid to also tell them that too, in a positive way. And we've had some people where we've done this, and they're like, man, you suck doing that. I'm like, that's not the way that we approach that. You don't tell someone that they just suck at doing that. You say, hey, here's a way that I think you can improve. So we're trying to help them develop into leaders of being able to call people out for things that need to be called out, but in a positive way that's going to help that individual grow a little bit. And then also, we'll have times where, so you have, every group has their established leaders. You have your captain, you have your vocal individuals, and I'll tell them they can't talk for the first 15 minutes, that they can't talk, right? And so I'll put them in situations sometimes where we're doing a drill where I'm saying, we're going to do a reactive drill. Every time I point back, you're going to backpedal. I'll point left. You guys, shuffle left, right, or forward. You sprint forward, and then I'll say it really fast because the captains, they've done it before. They know what they're supposed to be doing. And then I'll say, is there any questions? No, 3, 2, 1, go. And then I'll give them about 10 seconds to figure something out where they're not allowed to ask me any questions, but they just have to communicate with each other. Like, hey, if he points that way, we're all moving that way at the same time, doing this type of step. Whatever it is, but the captains can't say anything, so it has other people, or sometimes it's the freshmen. Like, freshmen, you have to tell the captains what they're doing. So that way they have to be a little bit more vocal and just communicate with each other and just start having communication. Like, at the end of the day, if they do it wrong, I'll coach that. But if they're all doing something different, like, that's when I get upset, and see that as a point of, okay, here's a leadership opportunity where you could have stepped up. You need to communicate better in stressful situations. That's the same thing you're going to see on your respective competition surface. So little things like that to help them become more of a teammate and be in a leadership role rather than just be the person that comes in and, does the work and I put my effort in, but that's about it,
Absolutely. I mean, you're hitting you said it's little things, but they're huge in my opinion, and they're unique and they're simple and they're not hard to do, but you're making the kids confronting each other in a good way, I think is a really cool way to teach a skill there, because I think a lot of our kids struggle with that. And sometimes I struggle with that as well, just because it's so easy to communicate and confront people via social media and text and stuff, that it's hard to do it face to face. They don't understand, if a guy's messing up or not doing what he's supposed to do, on how to go about doing that. So I think what you were talking about there is really got me thinking a little bit about how I can teach our guys and grow myself in confronting things in a positive way.
Definitely. We just had our athletic department's awesome. We do a lot of professional building activities, speakers, stuff like that. Our athletic director's huge on that, which we're very fortunate to have. But we just had Steve Dickey, who's I think his title is the character coach for the men's basketball team down at Wichita State. And he came in to speak to us. And one of the things that he was talking about was Harvard, I believe, I'm going to mess it up. I forgot the exact study, but I think it was a Harvard business study, looked into what makes teams, both in athletics, but also in like the business setting, the workplace, really successful. And so they had this graph essentially where you start off like up high and it says like just a bunch of individuals working together, and they called that out as like 1 + 1 + 1 = 3 because everyone contributes to it. And then the next phase of it goes down, and they called that like 1 + 1 + 1 = 2, where you have everybody's there, but they're not all adding up. Somebody's taken away from it or something like that. And they called that like a pseudo team as well. And then they had the graph that started rising back up, and it met the original level. It was called like the first formation of team, where it was 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. So now everyone's there, but they're all working together well, and they're bringing positive things to one another. So they're adding up to more than just what they bring. And then like the next level is like 1 +, which is really high. It's like 1 + 1 + 1 = 10+, where everyone works very well together. Everyone's contributing. You're bouncing off each other's ideas. You're not afraid to call people out if they're not bringing it to the table. So now your team is just, super successful. And they're like, what is the root of this? What is the cause of this? And then at the end of the day, they said it was love. like love for your team and love for what you do. And so that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to create that love for the team, as in, hey, man, I love the way that you do this, but, for you to help this team out the most, here's something you have to improve upon. So we're just trying to help them communicate within that, and help be that team that is above and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's super impactful. That's great stuff you got going on, Coach. Let's talk about maybe some ways you have been able to acquire some additional funding for your department.
Yeah, so I have no budget.
Nice.
So that's fun to work with, But our athletic director and our administration is very generous when I say, hey, here's some things we need. We're really we work well together at creating a plan to go into it. But the first thing I did when I came here is I approached all the coaches. When we first got, we're very fortunate enough to have 2 weight rooms. We have a football weight room that our football coach Larry Wilcox, he's been here. I think this is his 51st or 52nd year on campus. He's been coaching for a while here, so he's pretty much built our entire football complex by himself. His own fundraising and whatnot. He's been very, very successful with that. So that's our football weight room pretty much, and we have some other teams that use it, but for the most part, we have another weight room that we use for most of our other varsity sports. And when I first got here, it wasn't quite engineered towards a athletic setting, It used to be more of like a rec center type of environment for our general population students, and then they had a rec center built for them. This just kind of became the varsity quote-unquote weight room. So there's a lot of things that we needed to do to be able to make it more efficient for our athletes. And so when I talked to our administration about that, they're very understanding, and they were able to find some money. But when I got all the head coaches together right away when I got hired, and I said, I know you all have very tight budgets, and I understand that. But if we think about it, so we have 19 varsity programs here. And I said, if each one of you gives me $100 out of your budget, or $150 or $200, whatever you're willing to give me, like, here's the different things that we can do. And for some coaches, like, hey, I just can't swing that. I'm like, no problem. I'm not trying to say, that it's shameful if you don't donate. But if we all do this, like, here's how we can help the entire athletic program just from $100 from you. Like, if so if we everyone gives $100, here's the things that I'd like to do, and here's the things that we can accomplish with that. And everyone gives $200. Here's the things that I'd like to do, and here's the things that we can accomplish with that. And just little things like that. So we have a lot of head coaches that are very generous at being able to just give this little amount. All of us, we want to ask for, the big $50,000 or $100,000 check to completely renovate, the facility. And I'm like that as well. But one thing I realized is, like, once again, it's the little things that add up. So just little amounts of money from the different coaches has really been able to take our weight room a long way.
Nice.
And we've been able to replace bars. We didn't have bumpers when I got here. Now we have bumpers, which is very nice, once again, coming from the coaches' pockets. So it's been really, their budget. So it's been really awesome to be able to see that transformation. Awesome. And one thing we're trying to do, we're still getting it set up, but we have a contract with Coca-Cola, and then we have a contract with another vending company that's local here. But what we're trying to do is set up vending machines in the weight rooms geared towards athletes. So myself and our head athletic trainer, we're discussing what we're going to put in it and whatnot. There's a couple things we have to go through in order for it to get approved through both the companies and then our business office. But we're going to set it up so that way they can use, we have like Raven Bucks, I think they're called here, or Raven Dollars or something like that. So they can use those swipes, and then they can get, a post-workout recovery shake or, granola bar, whatever it is. And then we're going to be able to see the profit from that. So we're going to only charge, whatever that we ask them for the lowest price to help our athletes the most. We don't want to be ripping off our athletes. Sure. But whatever, since they're going to pay the extra 5 cents or whatever it is for it, and we get to see that money back, that's going to be an additional fundraising way that we can invest. So if the athletes are going to invest in themselves, we're going to try and take that money to help invest even more so in them with more equipment.
How did you start that conversation as far as doing the vending machine? Did you approach that with the AD? Because I think that's something practical way that maybe something I could do here at William Jewell College as well. But I just don't know how to kick that off. And then did you go with the AD, then go from there, I assume?
Yeah, so I talked to our athletes about it for when I first kind of had the idea about it. I started talking to our athletes because, a lot of them will come in with like a Monster Energy drink and a Snickers bar. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, well, I had to skip lunch and I just went to the vending machine, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so a lot of them started, talking, they're doing stuff like that. And I was talking to them like, how much do you guys use these vending machines? Like, well, they accept our Raven Bucks or whatever they're called, so, fairly often. And I'm like, what if we, got some good things in those? And so I tried contacting our individual here who runs all that, and they're like, no, we're pretty set in what we do. So then I approached our AD and I said, hey, I think we have an opportunity here to be able to give our athletes a good opportunity for that. And so our AD, after talking with him a little bit back and forth about it, he liked it. He liked the idea. And then so he got the meeting set up with the different representatives from the companies to start making that happen.
It's a pretty unique way. It's pretty creative. I think that's something I might try to look at. So you have to keep me updated on how that's going for you, because I think we might be able to try to do that here as well. That's a pretty creative way. I like that, Coach.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. All of us want to have the training table and the meals that we're able to provide for our athletes, but with low budgets, we're not all able to do that. So
sure.
I think it's a way that we're able to hopefully still provide healthy options for the athletes without tanking the budget completely.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so let's switch the focus a little bit up. Let's talk about training philosophy. What is your training philosophy for working with your athletes?
Yeah, I've stolen a lot of different things from a lot of different people and just kind of combined it all into one sort of training philosophy, I guess you could say. I guess you could say the base component of what I do is the tier system. I know you're a tier guy.
Yeah.
I like the tier system. I think Coach Ken and his development of that has been a huge contribution to the strength conditioning community. So I'd say that's my base of what I do, but I run it very loosely, just kind of depending on where the athlete's training age is or what the athlete needs specifically. With our smaller room, when we just got bumpers in, we couldn't do a lot of Olympic movements. So the total body category of that, we kind of had to adjust a little bit to, make sure we're putting athletes in the best position. But like I said, I think the tier system is the base of what we do. And then after that, I like Dr. Brian Mann's approach. And pretty much we start off with a lot of volume until that doesn't really work anymore for them. We'll start off with the 1x20s that he does, or I think it was who is the guy, like Dr. Yesus, I think, is the guy that originally came up with that, right? Yeah. And then Dr. Mann endorsed it, and so we'll start off with that with the 1x20s and the 1x14s, and then the 2x8s. And once we start peaking off that, if they still need volume, if they're still either kind of smaller for their sport, or just not really able to groove those patterns and you want a little bit more volume on them, we'll go more so over to the performance cycles that Coach Ken puts in his book for the tier system. We'll do that just to get some more volume on them. And then after that, we'll go to an APRE style. We'll start off with like the true, I guess you could say, original format of the APRE. So the 2 sets, like a 10 rep max or 6 rep or 3 rep or whatnot.
Right.
And then depending if we're in the APRE phase and they still want a little bit more volume on it, we may go to the adjusted APRE where you do the 7.5, 3, 9 plus or whatever it may be.
Right.
And then after that, if we have athletes that are starting to really get with it and or really good with their mechanics and they're really strong, but we want a little bit more of that speed strength component to them, then we'll go into a triphasic phase. And the first time that I've been able to do that here has been with our men's basketball program this year.
Nice.
And so we've been implementing that. It's not to the T though, because when I read Cal Dietz's book and then I saw the examples of his training sessions, I was blown away. I'm like, he must have 3 hours to work with his athletes.
Right.
I got 45 minutes, so it's not exactly to the T, but we do the eccentric and the isometric and the concentric phases and whatnot. And if we are not able to do the triphasic, though, I mean, once again, I got 260 football athletes. So some of those guys that are in those different positions that are ready for something beyond the APRE, we'll go more of a conjugate style with them, a planned conjugate, where we're working our strength day or max effort, and then more of a dynamic effort day.
Gotcha. This is just kind of a general question. And how do you manage all those 260 football guys? I mean, I'm assuming you're not working with much of a staff. I mean, how do you monitor them? How do you know where guys are at, in that development, what they need? Or, I mean, are there any unique ways you're doing that? Is it just kind of go by your eyes and go from there? Or how are you doing that, Coach?
Yeah, so I have one graduate assistant that works with me, and he's phenomenal. He's more of an assistant than he is a grad assistant, the way that I work him. So he's incredible. So he helps me as much as he can with football, as long as he doesn't have another sport that he's in charge of at the same time. But I think it's really by our eyes and by what we see. I wish I had a better way to go about it.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as, like the volume setting of it, it's, you're an outside linebacker that weighs 165 pounds. Like we need to put some mass on you, But as far as like numbers go, once you can squat roughly, 2 times your body weight, that's when we'll start transitioning you more over into the speed strength emphasis, because it's kind of like that. It's an age-old question of how strong is strong enough.
Right.
And when I was talking to Coach Hester, Kurt Hester from Louisiana Tech this summer, I was fortunate enough to go to Summer Strong, put on by Sorinex, and he was there. He's one of the speakers, and I was able to talk with him for a little bit. And speaking with him and several other coaches, kind of the thing that, and Dr. Brian Mann has this as well, is that we kind of realize that strong enough is about 2 times your body weight in a back squat. And that's when you're, at what point does strength just give you diminishing returns? And when, or you're not optimizing your training. So I'd say that's kind of one of our standards, I guess you could say, for great. We don't need to just focus on, an APRE strength style with you. Now we can go more into a conjugate style.
Right.
But as far as form and everything, the volume and stuff like that, if your form is still bad, we're still going to put you under more volume with less load, so you can groove that form better.
Gotcha.
And the way that we have our racks set up, we have them lined down the center of the weight room, so I can kind of stand at one point and be able to see 3 or 4 people squatting at the same time. So am I going to see everything? No, or benching or cleaning or whatever our movement is, right? Am I going to see everything? Absolutely not. But I'm going to be able to get a pretty good visual of what's going on and whatnot. And at the beginning with our freshmen, when we are all red shirts, but specifically freshmen, they come in, everything is off my command. So, I'll say down, they sit down to their squat or their bench press or whatever it is, up, or, hinge movements, just to teach a hinge and whatnot. So we're really able to break it down at a very segmented component to be able to see and adjust those movement patterns right away.
Gotcha.
But I wish I had a better way to do it. I wish I had more eyes in there, but, you work with what you got.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to make it work. So, all right. So what is something you're excited about learning and improving on in the next year as a coach?
The 2 things I really want to learn and improve on is the RPR and the FRC, so the functional range conditioning and the reflexive performance reset. I don't know a lot about those, but I've seen them work. I've seen, a lot of coaches swear by it. A post that kind of sold it for me, obviously, social media is, it can be doctored up or whatever, but I don't know if you follow, I think his name's like Joey Burgles. I think he's from Utah State.
Okay.
He's a huge proponent of the functional range conditioning, so the FRC, which, from my understanding, it's essentially trying to train the body to take passive ranges of motion into active ranges of motion. I don't know if you know a lot about this, or maybe you can speak onto it more than I can. But it's like, for instance, right, if you're able to get, maybe pulling on your toe, you're able to get, 25 to 30 degrees of dorsiflexion. But if you, without your hand in that passive range of motion, if you're just able only, to just try to actively dorsiflex, you may only be able to get like 3 to 5 degrees of dorsiflexion. So yes, when you stretch it, right, and you're pulling on, you're doing that passive motion, that's great. But if you can't do that actively, then that's when it's not going to be able to transfer over to sport.
Right.
Or same thing with internal or external rotation of the hip or the shoulder or whatnot. So I know that they have like a certification process for it and seminars and whatnot, and I'd love to learn more about that. But one thing he posted was it's like this picture of a football player whose ankle looks like it is in a horrible position. And probably, like, if I saw that, I would immediately think he probably sprained everything in there. But, he commented, the tagline was, this was, you think this is a sprained ankle, but this is a lot similar to our positions that we work every day through our like pails and rails, or I don't know exactly what they call it. But I was thinking about it for a while, and pretty much after I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's something I definitely want to check out more.
Awesome.
And then the RPR stuff I think is really cool. When I first saw it, I thought it was like some voodoo magic, and I didn't think it was going to help out a lot. And then this summer, when I was at Summer Strong, Cal Dietz was giving us his talk, and he just had like this simple, he's like, you reset your central nervous system. Like, we always teach athletes to brace their core, their trunk, right? He's like, but that just destroys your central nervous system. So he had like this guy stick out his arm. He said, I'm going to push down your arm. So he pushes down his arm, or he's like, he's a pretty strong guy, right? He's resisting me. He's like, now I want you to brace your core, your trunk, as tight as you can, like you would for a max rep back squat. Just give me 5 of them. So he does his 5, and he has his hand stick out again, and he pushes down his hand. It's like, his hand just drops. And Cali's like, I barely put any force on him. So he's like, now just march in place. He does like this specific marched in place for like 10 seconds, I think, and they had him like reset his central nervous system. They did it again, and then his hand was able to stay up there. He's like, see, we just destroy our central nervous system with a lot of things we do. So I'm like, yeah, I want to learn about that. I'm sold. And I've talked to a lot of other coaches about it, and they're pretty high up on it from the ones that I've talked to that utilize it. They have a lot of anecdotal recommendations for it. So those are the 2 things I really want to get into this next year.
Yeah, I'm with you. All that stuff is way over my head right now, and I'm behind the boat on a lot of that. So I kind of like to dive into a little bit of that myself. So
absolutely, yeah.
All right, Coach, this has been great. You gave me a lot of stuff. I got a lot of notes here. I really appreciate you joining us. So let's wrap it up with 4 quick questions.
Perfect.
All right, what's your favorite office snack?
Favorite office snack? I'd have to say Greek yogurt.
Nice.
Like a little cup of Greek yogurt. But on those days where you're really just struggling, typically, I don't tell my athletes this, but typically I'll keep a couple Sour Patch Kids in my office drawer, a couple of those, and your day's good to go.
There you go. All right, favorite caffeine source if you're a caffeine guy?
Oh, I'm a huge caffeine guy, unfortunately. I'd have to say the Monster Ultras, so, got to save the sugar count, right?
Yep.
Or the Bang energy drinks.
Yep. I'm with you there. We're right on the same page there. Again, unfortunately is right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I tell my athletes to avoid caffeine a lot and just get, a natural energy boost from sleeping 8 hours a night. But, I'd be a hypocrite.
Right. I'm with you. All right. 15 minutes to train. What are you doing?
Probably a pretty poor warm up if we're being honest, and then probably the back squat, probably a dumbbell overhead press, and then a bent row.
Nice, I like it. All right, last one. Small school strength coach who's killing it and deserves a shout out.
Yeah, Ben Kozak down at West Texas A&M. He's working with their football program. He's doing a lot of great things there. He definitely deserves a shout out. And then I've never met the guy, but John Hagan or John Haugen, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name if you're listening to this, up at William Penn. I've never met him, and this could just be recruiting, but their athletes, they're in our conference. Their athletes always look freaking phenomenal.
Okay.
So whatever he's doing is incredible.
Awesome. Right on, Coach. This has been great. I, again, really appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'll link up all your contact info in the show notes. So if guys want to get a hold of you, is there any particular way you prefer people reaching out to you?
Anyway, email or Instagram direct message are probably the 2 ones that I'll probably view the most.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, enjoy the rest of your fall break. Get those batteries recharged a little bit, and enjoy your rest of the fall. Good luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the show.